Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when every screen in the Earth Defense Building started flashing red. He put down his cup and looked at the big display wall. Something was wrong. Lisa Hayes ran into the room. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Jake, you need to see this right now. Every communication system on Earth is getting the same message." The main screen flickered and showed a creature that looked like a giant lizard. Its scales changed colors like rainbow oil on water. The thing had yellow eyes and sharp teeth. It looked angry. "Humans of the third planet," the alien said. Its voice was deep and scary. "I am High Commander Zektar of the Vorthon Empire. For 3,000 of your years, this galaxy has been peaceful under our control. Your kind has been allowed to exist because you were not important." Jake raised his eyebrows. Lisa sat down hard in her chair. Around the room, people stopped talking and stared at the screen. "But now you have gone too far," the alien continued. "You have built cities on 17 worlds that do not belong to you. You have taken rocks and metals from our holy places. This must stop now. We declare war on all humans. You have 30 days to give up or we will destroy every human in space." The screen went black. The room was quiet for 3 seconds. Then Jake started laughing. It started as a small chuckle, then became a real laugh. Soon he was holding his stomach and laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Lisa stared at him like he had gone crazy. "Jake, did you hear what that thing just said?" "They declared war on us." "I know," Jake said, wiping tears from his eyes. "That's the funniest thing I've heard all year." Captain Ryan Bell walked over to them. He had been listening to the message from across the room. "Sir, with respect, I don't see what's funny about aliens wanting to kill us all." Jake looked around the room. Everyone was staring at him like he had lost his mind. He took a deep breath and tried to explain. "Ryan, how long did that lizard say they've had peace in the galaxy?" 3,000 years, sir." "Right, 3,000 years." Jake walked over to the computer and pulled up some files. "Do you know what humans were doing 3,000 years ago?" Ryan shook his head. "We were just learning how to make things out of iron. We lived in small villages and fought with spears and arrows. That was 3,000 years ago." Jake clicked through more files. "Do you want to know what we've been doing since then?" The screen showed a long list of wars. It went on and on. Roman wars, Viking raids, crusades, Mongol invasions, World War I, World War II, and hundreds of others. "We've been fighting," Jake said simply. "For 3,000 years we've been fighting wars, making better weapons, and learning new ways to win battles. While these Vorthons were sitting around enjoying their peace, we were getting really, really good at war." Lisa's eyes got wide as she understood. "Oh my God. They have no idea what they just did." "Exactly," Jake said. "They just declared war on the most warlike species in the galaxy. A species that has spent 3 millennia perfecting the art of killing things." Captain Bell looked at the war list on the screen. "Sir, are you saying we're more dangerous than they are?" "Ryan, let me put it this way. These aliens have had peace for 3,000 years. That means their soldiers have never fought a real war. Their generals have never had to think of new battle plans. Their weapons are probably thousands of years old because they never needed to make them better." Jake pulled up another file. It showed Earth's current military strength. Ships, weapons, soldiers, and battle plans that had been tested in dozens of small wars over the past few centuries. Meanwhile, we've been fighting someone almost every single year for our entire history. Every time we fight, we learn something new. Every time we win or lose, we get better. We've turned war into a science. Dr. Elena Brooks walked into the room. She was Earth's top expert on alien cultures and military history. "I heard the message," she said. "I've been studying what little we know about the Vorthon Empire." "What did you find?" Lisa asked. "They're exactly what Jake thinks they are," Elena said. "An old empire that conquered the galaxy thousands of years ago and then stopped growing. They never had to fight anyone because everyone was too scared to fight back. Their technology is ancient. Their tactics are probably even older." She pulled up some charts on her tablet. "From what we can tell, their best warships are about as advanced as our ships were 200 years ago. Their weapons are probably older than that." Jake grinned. "So what you're telling me is that while we were having world wars and developing nuclear weapons and plasma guns, they were sitting on their thrones doing nothing?" "Pretty much. Yes." The room was quiet again, but this time it was different. People weren't scared anymore. They were starting to smile. Some were even laughing quietly. General Pete Collins walked in and looked around. "I heard we got a declaration of war from some aliens. Everyone seems pretty happy about it." "General," Jake said, How many wars has humanity fought in the last 3,000 years? I don't know the exact number, but it's got to be in the thousands. And how many wars have the Vorthons fought? General Collins thought about it. If they've had peace for 3,000 years, then probably none. Exactly. They just challenged the most experienced military force in the galaxy to a fight. It's like a kindergarten kid challenging a professional boxer. The general started smiling too. When do we start?
They gave us 30 days, Lisa said. 30 days?
The general laughed. We could mobilize the entire human fleet in a week. What are we supposed to do with the other 3 weeks? Plan the victory party, Jake said. Outside the building, news of the alien message was spreading across Earth. In military bases around the planet, soldiers were laughing. In space shipyards, workers were whistling while they loaded weapons onto battleships. In government offices, politicians were making speeches about how humanity would defend itself, but nobody was scared. Nobody was talking about surrender. Instead, they were all asking the same question. When do we get to show these aliens what 3,000 years of human warfare looks like? The Vorthons had made a mistake. They thought they were declaring war on a primitive species that would be easy to defeat. Instead, they had just woken up the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. And that predator was very, very eager to hunt. Dr. Elena Brooks stood in front of the biggest meeting room on Earth. Every important military leader and government official was there. The room was so full that people were standing against the walls. Everyone wanted to hear what she had to say about the aliens who had declared war on humanity. Elena clicked her remote and the big screen showed a timeline. It started 3,000 years ago and went all the way to today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something interesting about this war declaration. General Pete Collins sat in the front row. He was the head of Earth's Space Marines, and he had fought in more battles than anyone else in the room. Next to him sat Admiral Kate Sullivan, who commanded Earth's entire space navy. Behind them were hundreds of other officers, politicians, and experts. 3,000 years ago, when the Vorthons started their peaceful empire, humans were living in the Bronze Age. We were just learning how to make iron tools. We lived in small tribes and fought with swords and spears. Elena clicked to the next slide. Now let me show you what we've been doing during their peaceful time. The screen filled with numbers that made everyone gasp. Wars, battles, conflicts, and fights going back thousands of years. The list was so long it had to scroll to fit on the screen. We have fought approximately 14,531 wars during the Vorthon peace period. That's about 5 wars every single year for 3,000 years. Captain Danny Rodriguez whistled. He ran Earth's Special Forces and was famous for winning impossible battles. Doc, are you sure about those numbers? I'm sure. And that's just the big wars. It doesn't count all the small fights, raids, and skirmishes. If we counted those, the number would be 10 times higher. Elena clicked again. Now the screen showed weapons. Swords became guns. Guns became cannons. Cannons became missiles. Missiles became plasma weapons and antimatter bombs. While the Vorthons were enjoying their peace, we've been inventing new ways to fight. We've weaponized everything from pointy sticks to black holes. We've learned to fight on land and water, in air and space, and in dimensions that don't even exist yet. Admiral Sullivan raised her hand. Doctor, what do we know about their current military capabilities? Elena smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. That's the best part, Admiral. Our intelligence suggests that their most advanced warship is roughly equal to our museum pieces from 200 years ago. The room erupted in laughter and excited talking. General Collins stood up. Are you telling me that while we were fighting each other and making better weapons every year, they were just sitting around doing nothing? That's exactly what I'm telling you, General. Think about it. If you have perfect peace for 3,000 years, why would you need to improve your weapons? Why would you train your soldiers? Why would you develop new battle tactics? Lieutenant Maya Carter spoke up from the back of the room. She was only 25 years old, but she had already fought in more space battles than most people twice her age. So their soldiers have never actually fought a real war? Probably not. Their generals have probably never commanded a real battle. Their engineers have probably never had to design weapons that actually work under combat conditions. The room was getting excited now. People were talking to each other and pointing at the screens. Elena had to raise her voice to get their attention back. But here's the really important part, she said. It's not just that we're more advanced. It's that we think differently. We've spent 3,000 years learning that the enemy will always do something unexpected. We've learned to be ready for anything. She clicked to a new slide that showed human battle tactics. We call it adaptive warfare. We don't just make plans, we make backup plans for our backup plans. We assume that everything will go wrong and we prepare for it. Colonel Rick James, Earth's top military engineer, nodded. Every human weapon system is designed to work even when it's half destroyed. Every human soldier is trained to fight even when their officers are dead and their equipment is broken. Exactly, Elena said. We've learned to expect the unexpected because we've been fighting people who are just as smart and tricky as we are. The Vorthons have been fighting nobody. Captain Tony Martinez from the Space Navy asked, what about their numbers? Do they have more ships than us? They probably do, Elena admitted. But remember, quantity isn't everything. 1,000 soldiers who have never fought a real battle aren't necessarily better than 100 soldiers who fight for a living. She clicked to show some historical examples. When Spanish conquistadors landed in the Americas, they were outnumbered hundreds to one. But they had better weapons, better tactics, and more experience fighting wars. The same thing happened when European armies fought much larger forces in Africa and Asia. General Collins stood up again. So what you're saying is that we might be outnumbered, but we're definitely better at this. Much better. The Vorthons are like a rich kid who has never been in a fight challenging a professional boxer. They might look scary, but they have no idea what they're getting into. Admiral Sullivan looked around the room. How long do we have to prepare? 30 days, Elena said. Though honestly, I'm not sure we need that long. Our current forces could probably handle whatever they throw at us. The real question is whether we want to just defend ourselves or teach them a lesson they'll never forget. The room went quiet as people thought about this. Finally, Captain Rodriguez spoke up. Doc, in your professional opinion, how badly are we going to beat them? Elena looked at her notes, then at the timeline showing 3,000 years of human warfare. She looked at the weapons development charts and the tactical evolution diagrams. She thought about every war humanity had ever fought and every lesson they had learned. Gentlemen, she said finally, I don't think this is going to be a war. I think this is going to be a very expensive lesson in why you don't pick fights with predators. The room erupted in cheers and laughter. People were shaking hands and slapping each other on the back. For the first time in years, humanity had a common enemy, and for the first time in their history, that enemy had no idea what humans were capable of. Outside the meeting room, word was already spreading to every human colony and military base in space. The message was simple. The aliens want a war, and humanity is very happy to give them one. After all, humans had been practicing for 3,000 years. Commander Alex Stone was having a boring day patrolling the edge of human space when his ship's alarm started screaming. He sat up in his captain's chair and looked at the main screen. 3 alien ships had just appeared on his sensors. Maya, what do we have? He asked. Lieutenant Maya Carter was his weapons officer. She was young but very good at her job. She had been in 14 ship battles and won all of them. 3 vessels, sir. Unknown design. They matched the specifications from the alien message last week. Alex grinned. His ship, the Defiant, was just a patrol vessel with 12 crew members. It wasn't meant to fight big battles, but Alex and his people had been fighting pirates and smugglers for years. They knew how to handle themselves. Rick, how are we looking? Alex called to his engineer. Chief Rick James looked up from his control panel. All systems running perfectly, sir. Weapons charged, engines ready, and I just finished upgrading our plasma cannons yesterday. Navigator Julie Adams turned around in her seat. Sir, the alien ships are moving toward us. They're not very fast. Alex studied the tactical display. The 3 Vorthon ships were bigger than the Defiant, but they moved like they were carrying heavy cargo. Their weapon signatures looked old and weak compared to human technology. Interesting, Alex said. Maya, can you get a weapons lock on all 3 ships? Already done, sir. Our targeting computers are having no trouble tracking them. They don't seem to have any electronic warfare capabilities. Alex raised his eyebrows. No jamming, no decoys, no attempts to hide? These aliens really had never fought a real war. The communication system crackled to life. Human vessel. This is War Commander Tolvar of the Vorthon Scout Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Alex looked around at his crew. They were all trying not to laugh. Julie was covering her mouth with her hand. Rick was shaking his head and grinning. Maya was actually giggling. Maya, remind me, how many ship battles has our crew fought? 43, sir. In the last 2 years. And how many have we lost? 0, sir. Alex opened the communication channel. Vorthon vessels, this is Commander Alex Stone of the Earth ship Defiant. We received your boss's declaration of war. We have a response for you. Human, you pilot one small vessel against our formation of 3 ships. Do you wish to surrender on behalf of your species? Now Alex really started laughing. He looked at his crew, all of them veterans of dozens of space battles. Maya had started fighting pirates when she was 23. Rick had been fixing weapons during combat for so long he could repair a plasma cannon while being shot at. Julie could navigate through an asteroid field during a firefight without breaking a sweat. Surrender? Alex said, no, friend. Let me explain something about humans that you clearly don't understand. We've been fighting each other for 3,000 years. Every dirty trick, every smart tactic, every way to win a battle. We've tried it all on each other. He paused and looked at Maya's weapons display. All 3 alien ships were perfectly targeted. Their shields were weak and their armor looked ancient. Maya, show them what humans learned about space combat while they were having their peaceful empire. Maya's fingers danced across her control panel. The Defiant's weapon system came alive like a work of art. Plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, and kinetic missiles launched in a pattern that looked like deadly fireworks. The human weapons were faster, more accurate, and much more powerful than anything the Vorthons had seen. The first alien ship exploded before its captain could even understand what was happening. The second ship tried to turn away, but Julie had already calculated where it would go. Maya's second shot hit it perfectly. The third Vorthon ship finally started shooting back, but its weapons moved so slowly that Maya had time to dodge them while reloading her cannons. The alien plasma bolts moved like they were underwater compared to human weapons. Rick, are they really shooting at us with that? Alex asked. Yes, sir. Those weapons are so old I think my grandfather would laugh at them. Their plasma bolts are about half the speed of ours and maybe 1/10 the power. Maya destroyed the third ship with a single shot. The entire battle had lasted less than 2 minutes. The space around them was now filled with debris and expanding clouds of gas from the destroyed Vorthon ships. Alex opened his communication system to broadcast on the emergency frequency that he knew all alien ships monitored. Vorthon Command. This is Commander Alex Stone of the human ship Defiant. I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. He waited a moment to make sure they were listening. 3 of your ships just attacked one of our patrol vessels. A patrol vessel, not a warship. Just a small ship with 12 people on it. And we destroyed all 3 of your ships in under 2 minutes without taking any damage. Alex looked around at his crew. They were all still smiling. This had been easier than their last fight with pirates. Now I want you to think about what that means. If a small patrol ship with 12 humans can destroy 3 of your warships that easily, what do you think will happen when you meet our actual military? He let that sink in for a moment. Let me tell you what's going to happen next. Right now, Earth is mobilizing the largest battle fleet in human history. These aren't patrol ships like mine. These are real warships designed to fight real wars. They're commanded by people who have been studying warfare their entire lives, and they're crewed by soldiers who fight for a living. Alex pulled up some files on his computer. Earth's military strength was impressive even by human standards. In a few days, you're going to meet Admiral Beth Turner in the Colonial Battle Fleet. Admiral Turner has been fighting space battles for 20 years. Her flagship, the Revenge, has never lost a fight. It carries weapons that can destroy entire cities and crew members who think ship-to-ship combat is fun. The communication channel stayed open, but no aliens responded. Alex could imagine them staring at their screens in shock. So here's my advice, Alex continued. Go back to your high commander and tell him what happened here. Tell him that the humans he declared war on aren't scared farmers hiding on one planet. We're a military species that has been practicing for 3,000 years, and we just got very excited about the chance to show someone what we've learned. Alex closed the communication channel and turned to his crew. Well, that was fun. Julie, plot a course for the next patrol sector. I have a feeling we're going to run into more aliens who need some education. As the Defiant flew away from the debris field, Alex made one more broadcast on the general communication frequency. Any other Vorthon ships in this area, this is Commander Stone. The war your leaders declared has started, but I don't think it's going the way they expected. Behind them, the wreckage of 3 alien warships drifted in space. It was humanity's first victory in the war that the Vorthons thought would be easy. It would definitely not be their last. High Commander Zektar stood in his command center aboard the massive flagship Eternal Dominion. The ship was 3 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. It was the pride of the Vorthan Empire and had never been defeated in battle. Of course, it had never actually been in a real battle. Sub-Commander Veltar, explain this to me again, Zektar said, staring at the tactical reports on his screen. How have we lost 200 ships in 1 week? Veltar was the intelligence officer for the Vorthan fleet. He had been studying the human attacks, trying to understand how such a primitive species could be winning so easily. What he had learned made him very worried. Sir, our initial assessment of human capabilities was completely wrong. These humans have been in a constant state of warfare for their entire civilization. They've developed tactics and weapons specifically designed to fight enemies who are bigger and stronger than they are. Veltar brought up a holographic display showing human battle patterns. Every single engagement has been different, sir. At the Tau Ceti colony, they hid ships inside asteroids and attacked us from ambush. At Proxima Station, they used psychological warfare, broadcasting the death screams of our crews to terrify the other ships. Fleet Captain Corval stepped forward. He commanded the Eternal Dominion's escort fleet, but half of his ships had been destroyed by human attacks in the past 3 days. Sir, we've also detected human military formations moving throughout this entire sector. They're not running away or hiding like we expected. They're hunting us. They're treating this like some kind of game. Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean, hunting us? Sir, they're not fighting defensively. They're actively seeking out our ships and destroying them. They seem to enjoy combat. Our troops are terrified, but their troops act like this is entertainment. Another officer, communications leader Hextal, approached with more bad news. Sir, we've been intercepting human military communications. They're not discussing surrender or peace negotiations. They're arguing about who gets to fight the most battles. Zektar couldn't believe what he was hearing. They're arguing about who gets to fight us? Yes, sir. Apparently, their military commanders consider this war to be excellent training for their junior officers. They're rotating their crews so that everyone gets a chance to fight Vorthan ships. The proximity alarms suddenly started screaming throughout the command center. Every Vorthan officer froze as they looked at the main display screen. A human battle fleet was emerging from hyperspace directly in front of them. These weren't the small patrol ships or converted civilian vessels they had been fighting. These were actual human warships built for war and covered in weapons. The lead ship was enormous, almost as big as the Eternal Dominion, but it looked like it had been in 100 battles. Its hull was scarred and marked with symbols that the Vorthans didn't understand. Sir, Veltar whispered, that ship's name is the Revenge. Our intelligence files say it was built 30 years ago and has never lost a battle. The human fleet spread out into a perfect attack formation. The Vorthans had seen similar formations in their military history books, but they had never seen anyone execute it so smoothly. Every human ship moved to its exact position without hesitation or confusion. Vorthan Command, came a calm female voice over the communication system. This is Admiral Beth Turner of the Colonial Naval Service. We understand you wanted to start a war. Admiral Turner stood on the bridge of the Revenge, surrounded by officers who had been fighting battles since before some of the Vorthan commanders were born. Captain Tony Martinez stood beside her, reviewing target priorities on his tactical display. Commander Steve Walsh was coordinating with the other ships in the fleet, making sure everyone was ready for the fight. We're here to finish it, Admiral Turner continued. You have 30 seconds to surrender, or we'll demonstrate why humans spent 3,000 years getting really good at breaking things. Zektar looked around his bridge at officers who had never faced real combat. They had trained in simulators and read about tactics in old books, but none of them had ever commanded ships in an actual battle. They were facing humans who had been fighting real wars their entire careers. Sir, Fleet Captain Corval said quietly, what are your orders? Zektar studied the tactical display. His fleet was larger than the human fleet, but after a week of defeats he wasn't sure that mattered anymore. The humans had already proven that their weapons were better, their tactics were superior, and their crews were much more experienced. But he was a Vorthan commander. His empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. He couldn't surrender without a fight. All ships prepare for battle, he ordered. The Vorthan fleet began to move into their traditional attack formation. It was a formation that had worked perfectly for thousands of years against enemies who fought the same way they did. Admiral Turner watched the alien ships positioning themselves and shook her head. Tony, are they really using the classic hammer and anvil formation? Looks like it, Admiral. That formation went out of style about 500 years ago. Any first-year military academy student could counter it. Steve, show them why we don't use formations from ancient history books. The human fleet exploded into action. Instead of moving in the predictable patterns the Vorthans expected, each human ship followed its own carefully planned route. Some attacked from above, others from below, and still others seemed to disappear entirely before reappearing behind the Vorthan formation. The Eternal Dominion's weapons were powerful, but they had been designed to fight enemies who stood still and traded shots like gentlemen. The human ships moved like dancers, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Meanwhile, human weapons were hitting Vorthan ships with devastating accuracy. The humans had studied Vorthan ship designs and knew exactly where to aim for maximum damage. Their plasma bolts punched through Vorthan shields like they weren't even there. "Sir," Veltar reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost 60% of our escort fleet in the first 5 minutes. The humans are destroying our ships faster than we can target theirs." Zektar watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet exploded or went dark. The humans weren't just winning, they were winning easily, almost casually. Their formation looked more like a training exercise than a desperate battle. "Damage report on the Eternal Dominion," he demanded. "Minor damage to outer hull sections," came the reply. "But sir, I don't think they're actually trying to destroy us. They're targeting our weapon systems and engines, but avoiding our command section." Zektar realized the terrible truth. The humans weren't fighting for their lives. They were giving him a demonstration. They were showing him that they could destroy his flagship anytime they wanted to. But they were choosing not to. "All ships," he said quietly into his communicator, "cease fire and withdraw to minimum safe distance. Request immediate ceasefire negotiations." The human fleet stopped shooting immediately. Their discipline was perfect. Every ship stopped at exactly the same moment, proving that their coordination was even better than it appeared. "Vorthan Command," Admiral Turner's voice came over the communication system again. "We accept your request for negotiations. Follow our lead ship to the neutral station at Haven. And Commander Zektar, bring someone who has the authority to end this war, because we're just getting started." The meeting room on Haven Station was quiet and tense. High Commander Zektar sat on one side of the long table, looking tired and defeated. Across from him sat the human delegation, led by Admiral Beth Turner and Ambassador Jake Morrison. 3 weeks had passed since the war began. In that time, the Vorthan Empire had lost almost half of their entire fleet. Human casualties numbered in the dozens, and most of those were from accidents rather than actual fighting. "Let me make sure I understand your peace proposal," Admiral Turner said, reading from her tablet. Captain Tony Martinez and Commander Steve Walsh sat beside her, both trying to look professional despite the strange situation. "You want everything to go back to the way it was before. Humans give up our 17 colonies, stop all mining operations, and accept Vorthan authority over our expansion into space." Zektar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His scales changed color slightly, which the humans had learned meant he was nervous. "The Empire has maintained galactic stability for 3 millennia. Order must be preserved." Ambassador Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "Commander, your empire didn't maintain stability. It maintained stagnation. While you were sitting on your throne thinking that peace meant keeping everyone in small boxes, humanity was growing and learning and becoming something your 3,000-year-old mind can't understand." Dr. Elena Brooks had come to the station as a cultural advisor. She looked at Zektar with something that might have been pity. "Commander, can I ask you something? In the last 3,000 years, what has your empire created? What new technologies have you developed? What problems have you solved?" Zektar's scales shifted through several colors. "We maintained order. We preserved peace. We prevented wars. You prevented growth," Admiral Turner said bluntly. "While you were playing galactic police with weapons that were already ancient when our ancestors were living in caves, we were pushing boundaries, solving problems, and yes, fighting wars. Each battle taught us something new. Every victory and defeat made us stronger and smarter." Captain Danny Rodriguez had been sitting quietly in the corner. He commanded Earth's Special Forces and was famous for winning impossible missions. Now he spoke up for the first time. "Here's what's going to happen, Commander. Humanity is going to keep expanding into space. We're going to keep growing, learning, and probably fighting each other sometimes because that's what humans do. Your empire can either adapt to this new reality, or it can become irrelevant. But if you attack human colonies again, added Lisa Hayes, who had arrived with the diplomatic ship, you'll discover that what you've seen so far was just us being polite. Zektar looked around the table at faces that weren't cruel or angry, but also weren't submissive. These humans had fought his empire's best forces and won easily, but they weren't demanding tribute or territory. They were just stating facts. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Admiral Turner smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, it looked genuinely friendly. Trade agreements. Cultural exchange programs. Maybe some of your people could learn from ours and vice versa. The galaxy is big, Commander. There's room for everyone to grow. But understand this, Jake Morrison added, his diplomat smile never changing. The 3,000-year peace is over, not because we ended it, but because it was never real to begin with. Real peace isn't just the absence of fighting. It's what happens when everyone is too busy building something better to waste time on wars. Sub-Commander Veltar, who had been silent during most of the meeting, finally spoke. What about our other subject species? What happens to the planets and systems that have been under Vorthan rule for thousands of years? Dr. Brooks answered. That's up to them, isn't it? If they want to stay with your empire, that's their choice. If they want independence, that should be their choice too. And if they want to join humanity, we'll consider it. You would allow them to choose? Zektar asked, clearly surprised. Why wouldn't we? Admiral Turner replied. Forced loyalty isn't really loyalty at all. It's just fear. And fear-based governments don't last very long when people have other options. Captain Martinez looked at his watch. Admiral, we should probably wrap this up. The fleet commanders are waiting for orders. Admiral Turner nodded. Commander Zektar, you have a decision to make. You can accept the new reality and help us build a better galaxy, or you can keep trying to hold on to the past and become a footnote in history. What if we refuse? Zektar asked quietly. Then we'll keep doing what we've been doing. Captain Rodriguez said simply, defending our colonies, protecting our people, and defeating your forces every time you attack us. Eventually, you'll run out of ships and soldiers and your empire will collapse anyway. But it will take longer and cost more lives. Commander Walsh spoke up from his seat next to Admiral Turner. Sir, if I may, I think there's something you're not understanding. We don't want to destroy your empire. We don't want to conquer your worlds or rule your people. We just want you to leave us alone so we can grow. But, Admiral Turner added, if you keep trying to stop us, we'll go through you, and after this week, I think you know how that will end. Zektar was quiet for a long time, thinking about everything he had heard. His empire was ancient and had ruled the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed. But these humans had proven that age and size didn't matter if you stopped growing and learning. If we agree to these terms, he said finally, what guarantee do we have that humanity won't become a threat to other species in the galaxy? Jake Morrison laughed. Commander, we've been a threat to other species since we figured out how to make spears. The question isn't whether we're dangerous. The question is whether we're dangerous to our friends or just to our enemies. And that, Admiral Turner added, depends entirely on whether you choose to be our friend or our enemy. As the meeting ended and the Vorthon delegation prepared to leave, Zektar turned back one more time. How did you become so powerful so quickly? How did a species that was primitive 3,000 years ago become capable of defeating an entire galactic empire? Dr. Brooks smiled. Commander, we didn't become powerful quickly. We've been powerful for 3,000 years. You just finally noticed. The human delegates watched as the Vorthon ships left the station, carrying news that would change the entire galaxy. The age of enforced peace was ending, but something better was beginning. An age of growth, discovery, and the endless human drive to reach for something better. Admiral Turner looked at her staff. Well, people, looks like we've got a galaxy to explore. And knowing humans, we'll probably find someone else out there who needs to learn why you don't start fights with a species that turned warfare into an art form. The laughter that echoed through the station was distinctly human, confident, ready for anything, and eager to see what came next. The 3,000-year peace was over, but the human age was just beginning.